All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit record. Okay, so whenever you're ready to do your promo bumper thingy, hit it.
Hey, I'm Scott Sunderland, and I am the author of Finding Ugly and
Your URL, Freedom Project. That's okay.
Go
ahead.
Let's see. How do I say the Freedom Project? And
author of Ugly.
Yeah.
Finding Your Ugly.
Author of Finding Ugly and what of the Freedom Project. And
why don't you do this? You could do like, hey, this is Scott from the Freedom Project.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Good deal.
Also,
I like that.
The author of Finding Ugly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Like it.
Okay.
Yep.
Whenever you're ready, knock it out of the park.
Hey, this is Scott Sunderland from the Freedom Project and the author of Finding Ugly. And you are listening to Jeff Smith with the Vroom Vroom Veer podcast.
Listen up, Buttercup.
Listen up,
Buckle
people.
Up, Buttercup.
I do say that to my daughter.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Perfect.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Hey guys, you're Charlie. And you're Maureen, right? Yeah. So Charlie Hartwell, Maureen Pelton, welcome to the show and thank you for being here. You guys are at the shiftitinstitute.com and talk a little bit about what you're most excited about at the Shifted Institute today, briefly.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you go. Born 26 days before I was, so she's first in many things.
We're most excited about inviting people to awaken, ignite consciousness, human potential, and flourishing. We'd really like to create a new world.
Me too. Hey, we share a mission.
We do.
So, Charlie, are you excited about just about the same thing?
Yeah, well, we're pretty aligned on what our mission is.
Right.
And I'll just say, the other thing that I'm excited about as a leader and Maureen, with Maureen and I, like, we're not going to change the world individually. We do it as collaboratively. So Maureen and I, our husband and wife, Maureen and I.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We're parents, co-parents with each other. We're in business together, and we're here on a mission that is about what she said about igniting consciousness and inspiring human potential.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I have to back up because whenever I hear people talk about that, I always want to say, like, sometimes people go like, oh, I want to like work on world peace. And then suddenly you sound like you're in a beauty pageant. Right? Thank you for laughing, Maureen. You get what I'm talking about. It just sounds a little, what is the word? Flighty or whatever. Like a little. So what I like to say is we all have to work on personal peace, right? So you don't have to really worry about the world as much as you have to worry about helping one person at a time find it in themselves. Personal peace is doable, one by one. Personal inner peace, that awakening can happen in an individual. I've seen it happen. It works. Possible, right? It's not this, let's save the world and have, no, it's not that. We're talking about doing that one person at a time. I mean, Mars has world peace because there's no people. Thanks.
Well, for a few more years.
Yeah.
We'll be there soon.
Okay, so let's talk about the sort of like superhero origin story. Charlie, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about your story. So where do you want to start in there?
We're going to start with my story because I came here first.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, go.
So my story is I arrived on the planet about 58 years ago.
Okay,
and
congratulations.
From about the moment I got here, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? It's just, I don't belong here. I don't. And I grew up in a lovely family.
Right.
And,
where did you grow up? What part of the country?
Janesville, Wisconsin.
Wow. I grew up in Michigan. So simpatico. Okay. I get it. You had to escape. I get it.
I actually, my origin story, I was born in Ferguson, Missouri. I moved to Livonia, Michigan when I was 3 and Janesville, Wisconsin when I was 8.
Okay.
And my parents and my 3 siblings are lovely people, but they were from they're from a different place. I always felt
like a misfit.
And my mom would say stuff to me like, why are you so different? You go to the beat of a different drummer. Do you have to be so difficult?
Okay.
Constantly something was wrong with me. And it was just because I didn't fit in the family.
Okay.
And part of that was I'm a deeply spiritual person. And I felt a deep connection to something greater than myself. And when I was in 7th grade, I asked my mom if I could go to a psychiatrist because I knew I was different. And she said, no, what would people think?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So then when I was 21.
That in and of itself says a lot about our culture, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
And I sucked it up and I got through high school and into college. And then when I was 21, I had a spontaneous mystical experience that changed my life.
Wow. Okay. Well, I want to drill down into that later if we can. That sounds fun. Scary, life-changing, but in retrospect, awesome. Yes, right.
Exactly. And so instead of going on to law school as I had planned, I went on to graduate school because I wanted to find some context and really study human development and the social sciences and spirituality because I realized after this experience that I'm an energetic being in physical form having a human experience. And so my orientation to the world is really different. And then I have been meandering through life ever since then with a really clear understanding of who I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare. So you kind of feel funny. So Steve Martin used to say he would put banana peels in his shoes so he would feel funny.
Yeah.
I like that one. So can Charlie, that was a great overview. I want to come back to that and drill down into some of that stuff. I kind of felt similar when I was growing up in Michigan. I had like moments of clarity. Like, I think I was like somewhere in elementary school. When do you join like the smallest version of Cub Scouts? Anyway, whatever age that is. So my mom sort of bribed me into going to Cub Scouts and she made me wear my brother's shirt. And so I was like, I totally don't want to do that at all. Right. And for some reason, I don't know why, I went. Right. And I was committed going in not to stay. Right. I was just like, I'm going to do this because somebody told me to. I'll wear the shirt one day and then I'm leaving. And so one of the guys says, oh, it's your first day. I'm going to bring you over here and I'm going to show you the book and give you all your work that you have to do in this fun thing that you're doing for fun. And I'm like, that sounds like work. I'm leaving. Bye. Right. So I had like a couple of those moments of like, I'm just going to be me. Right. But they were kind of rare. Like, I don't know where that guy went, but he didn't hang around. I can, like, maybe another one I'll remember, right? Kindergarten, I have another one from kindergarten where the teacher put me out in the hall like they did back then, and I went home. I was like, good me, yay. I don't know where that one went. I was always very compliant when I was in the Air Force. So anyway, Charlie, let's get into your story a little bit. So it's probably way different from Maureen's, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so he was way late to the game.
Aha. See, but that's fun, though. That's fun.
Yeah. So I grew up in Minnesota.
Aha. Three Midwesterners all on the same podcast.
Fifth generation Minnesotan. I grew up in.
So we're all Lutheran. We grew up Lutheran, probably.
No, I did. Oh, no, we're going to get into that. I grew up in, what our community would have described as a perfect family.
Understood.
Our perfect family had, bullying, narcissism, mental health issues.
Perfect on the outside, right?
Yeah.
Perfect on the outside, right?
You name it.
The shiny wrapper with the crazy inside. Yes. That's every American household. Well, not everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was the fourth kid in the family. Early on, I learned that to survive in my family system, I needed to caretake people. I needed to please people.
Right. Right.
And I got really good at that. And then in my family system, I was also, really, heart-centered, and everyone else was not heart-centered.
Interesting. Okay.
I did have a father who was heart-centered, but the rest of the family was not at all heart-centered and disconnected from their heart. So in fourth grade, we were Presbyterian, and I found like Maureen, I was really committed to something greater than myself. And in the system that I came from, I found the farthest right way of doing that, of expressing that. So I was born again in like fourth or fifth grade. I was evangelical. Went to an evangelical church. I was carrying Bibles around junior high school and trying to convert people. And, I just went to the far side of Christianity because it was the only way that I knew in the context I grew up in of showing my love for something, for something greater than myself.
Okay.
I then kind of toned that down to live more in the traditional way. So I went to Brown University. I went to Harvard Business School. I worked on Wall Street. Wow. I've worked in 14 different industries in my career. But in my 40s, I had my waking up moment, which was there was just so much death around me. And I can be, if you ask Maureen if I can be stubborn or not, the answer will be yes. I'm for it.
Well, we can all be stubborn. You more so, I guess.
No.
Okay, so you're
not stubborn.
Your stubborn is on 11.
I have a tendency to be stubborn, but it was like the universe, needed to provide enough suffering where I would actually pay attention. So I had a dream. My father died, my grandfather died, and my two role models died within a couple of years of each other. I'd always been successful at business. A business I was working on wasn't successful. And, and then I was in a marriage that had been dead for years and I couldn't admit it. And so all that happened at the same time. I had a dream one night that I was climbing the World Trade Center. I knew what I was going to do when I got to the top. I'd never been suicidal and I've never been suicidal, but I had that dream and I woke up and I said, I need help. And that started my process of, going to therapy, exploring really who I am, looking at the patterns that I'd been living in that didn't serve me. And that began my change.
Wow. That's a lot. So when I was a kid, I was the guy, did you both go to Sunday school?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday school and Tuesday school and any school I could go to.
Well, so in my Lutheran church, my Sunday school, at some point I became like good at showing up. So I was perfect attendance guy. And then I was also the guy that memorized all the things, right? So like go home and memorize the 23rd Psalm. Oh, I had it down. I was really good at memorizing blocks of script. That came really easy to me. So then I could go regurgitate that, and then everybody would go, would you just stop it? I was that guy, right? I was like the show-off of memory person. But I never really, I sort of felt like a weird sort of back to Maureen, your story about feeling weirdly different. I had that feeling of being weirdly different, but I didn't feel like a misfit until almost like probably high school. Because I was always, in a middle child situation, you're always the one desperate for attention. So I was the kid going, look at me. So I became kind of a goofball. And
Still are.
Yeah.
It sounds like
I haven't changed. No. I was like, look at me. But that people like goofballs, right? So even if you're a misfit, if you're a goofball misfit, then, you kind of fit in, even though, people look at you like you're a goof. But, they don't dismiss you or, sort of. I ran into the things like, I quit football, Pop Warner football. So here's my story about why I quit Pop Warner football. I was afraid I was going to screw up the play, right? And I didn't want to let my teammates down because I had no idea what to do. So they would put me in on defense and I would just run at the quarterback, even if that's not what I was supposed to do. Now, had an adult just sat me down and said, look, Jeff, you're 8, just get out there and play, I would have went, oh, okay. But that didn't happen and I quit. And everybody from, parents, uncles, grandpa, grandma, they're like, nobody likes a quitter. And I'm like, too bad, I quit. So that was another moment of, yay, I stood up for myself and I quit football. I kind of wish I would have kept playing, though. That's because I would have been a better athlete. Anyway, I digress as usual. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you guys sort of use where you are, your story, and the different modalities that you use to help people sort of wake up, for a lack of a better term. So, yeah, I've never heard of quantum neuro reset therapy. And that sounds awesome.
It is. But I think I just do that a little bit. I think to wake people up, I think the honest question or answer to that question is it's every moment of every day, how I show up, how we show up, how I and we engage in the world. I mean, we work with clients, we work with companies, we work with entrepreneurs, we're investors. And Charlie has really led this movement around mindfulness and meditation at the scalable level. But really, I think just who we are is and how we show up and the energy we bring is how people wake up. And some people, it's an invitation and it goes well, and other people, can't stand us and want to attack us.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
Yeah, they attack us. They don't understand us. I've always been very, you were goofy. I was more authentic and real and naming things and calling things out. I love conflict. It's a call to creative problem solving. So,
totally.
To be in my presence, it takes a lot of courage. And
okay.
You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
So Charlie's got a lot of courage living with Maureen. I get it. Okay. I feel that. I get that vibe.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all over your face when I say things and you're like, I don't want to do that. It's awesome. Thank you. Keep doing it.
And I mean, to be really honest, at this point in my life, I just love working with young people, because they're so open and curious and
sure.
And they want a new world more so than the older generations.
It's true. It's true. I think the young people now are going to save us we're kind of the bridge is the way I see it.
Yeah.
So we've got the bridge brain because we actually connect to the boomers. We get that because we grew up with them. We don't like them, but it's not that we don't like them. We understand them, and we're like, we don't like the world they made, right? But we can. That's where the bridge comes in. It's like we know, like, you know, Dean Martin and, you know, all that stuff, and Eddie Arnold and Make the World Go Away, and just how crazy the world is that they made. Right. They don't, right? The young people don't understand that at all. Their only response to that is, okay, boomer, right? But we get it. We grew up there, you know, and to me, I think the world that the millennials make will be better than the one that the boomers made. I hope, anyway. God, I hope. Yeah. All right. So on the comment that you made about, you know, sometimes you show up, you're you. Your mission is to be just you, and then let the chips fall with people, right? And that might be ew or or meh, right? That's I did massage therapy for a while, and that was my experience. And that was like just like a bell curve. It's like a very small percentage of people love you a lot, right? And then most people are like meh, yeah, like that was good. That was a good massage. Nothing special. It wasn't awesome, but it was okay, right? You get a $20 tip. And then there's that other small percentage is like, you will never touch me again. It's just like, ew, right? So that's normal. I think that's just the way people and energy work. And, you know, it's not always, you're not going to help everybody. You're not going to be everybody's teacher. There's nothing wrong with that. So, okay, so just showing up, you encourage, like, so how did you guys get into your particular meditation practice? I mean, if you've got one.
Well, it was after my spontaneous mystical experience.
That we have to get into. So talk a little bit about the spontaneous mystical experience. You weren't like spontaneously taking some sort of plant-based medicine? Okay, gotcha.
No. I do understand it's similar to doing that. No,
okay. That's just one path. Right.
Yeah. Right. Let's just put it this way. I don't need the psychedelics.
Yeah, me neither. I'm with you. Yes.
So I was 21 and I had to have back surgery because I was born with an anomaly in my reproductive system in my back, my spine, my vertebrae. So the night before surgery, you know, they came in and they said, you may not wake up, you may be paralyzed. You know, they give you the truth, which I appreciate. Wow. And so
it's a scary truth.
Yeah, but it was good because and again, like I said, I was a deeply spiritual person. So I sat in my bed that night before the surgery and I prayed, right?
Okay.
And so the only way I can describe it is I had this realization this deep realization that we are powerless. And yet every moment we have choice, which is what empowers us. So I knew that I was completely powerless in regards to the surgery. Like I wasn't even going to be there. I was going to be anesthetized. So it was like, I am completely powerless. And my power is that I can choose to have the surgery or not. And I choose to have the surgery.
Right.
So in that moment, I surrendered to the divine. I was willing to die. I was willing to be paralyzed. I wasn't attached to anything. Most people will not understand this. I mean, they maybe intellectually will, but I completely surrendered to the divine. And when I did that, I just shot into the oneness and nothingness and I no longer existed. And I had a teaching, I would call it, and with unconditional love. And when I came back into my body and my mind, I knew something had happened and I had a sense of this unconditional love and I made a commitment to be of service to it. And I was in ecstatic joy. And I went to sleep and the next morning they woke me up for surgery and I was in ecstatic joy and they were all a little worried I was on drugs, but I wasn't. And then
describe what is Charlie, were you around for this? No, you weren't around. No. It would have been cool to have a witness to ecstatic joy, other than you, because you know.
Oh, he's seen it. He's seen it.
Oh, good. Okay, what's it look like, Charlie?
Well, it looks like another time she was anesthetized, right? For a minor, like a procedure.
Colonoscopy. All right. Wow. That's pretty light anesthesia.
So we come out of that, and she's in ecstatic joy, and I have to drive her home. So we're going through the office, where all of these people are waiting to get colonoscopies, and they're not very happy. And they see this woman coming by laughing hysterically, and they're just like, "What the hell is that?"
Like she had.
What are they giving out in there? Okay, so you're just giggling uncontrollably. Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's bliss and love and joy and it's just a very different state, which I can easily get to. But anyway, so at that point, I didn't know what that was, and I recovered miraculously from the surgery, of course, and then I was on a mission to find some context. So I did, I'm 21. I did yoga, meditation, Course in Miracles.
Course in Miracles is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I could go.
I learned a lot about,
And I could go on and on. I mean, I spent my 20s traveling and learning and learning new modalities and just trying to ground what happened. And I have to give credit to Stanislav Grof.
Okay.
He's one of the original researchers way back around psychedelics, but he came up with, he's also the founder of Hakomi breath work. But he's the one who talked about you can use psychedelics, you can use breath work, and sometimes you just have spontaneous mystical experiences.
Right.
So he's the one that was able to talk about non-ordinary states of consciousness, which I spend a lot of my time in. And I'm extremely grateful. And sometimes it's a little challenging to be here in the body.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a pretty dark world right now.
It's a challenge for me to be in my body every day. I get that. Yeah. I think I've come up with strategies like on a mundane day is my favorite day because I get to do what I do, right? It's when I get out of that box or travel or, whenever my little routine is sort of like disrupted is when obviously, you don't get to be enlightened just sitting. Unfortunately, we all have to live in the world, right? So whatever your practice is, it has to be portable. It has to work on the bus in LA Metro. You have to have a mundanizing moment sitting there on the bus and going, look at me. I'm sitting on a bus. I'm the only one that doesn't have headphones in. And I'm pretty happy. Right? I'm just enjoying my humanness now, and that was awesome. I made up my word. That was when I made up the word mundanizing, right? Having that moment. You know what I'm talking about. This is a thoroughly mundane moment and I'm feeling awesome. Right. Anyway, I digress. So in your story there about like that ecstatic experience. So my sort of like journey it didn't have the super high highs like that. So mine was on the low end, right? So like I said in the before we talked, I went through depression when I was about the same age you had your ecstatic experience there. I went through sort of the opposite. So I almost killed myself, right? And then I sort of like, I was very much committed to being in the Air Force and not having people think I was crazy or suicidal. So I always had like the backup plan. If I'm not dead tomorrow, I have to go to work, right? So after taking rat poison and not dying, I went to work. And that was like, don't do that. Don't ever do that because that's a really bad day at work. But that horrible experience of surviving a day at work after trying to kill yourself with rat poison, it changed me in a way that it wasn't a healthy thing. It was just one step above suicidal. It was like, well, fuck it. What do I have to do? I'm not doing that again. Right. And I didn't really get better for many years. It just got me off of that depression loop of I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, I don't need to be here, to fuck it. It really doesn't matter. I may as well have been dead anyway. I didn't die. Let's just go on and laugh more. That was what I like to call my fuck it experience. Didn't get better. All of the stuff was still there. I was just ignoring it now. So later on, I actually had to deal with it, and that got ugly. So those are the sorts of things that eventually it spun out to where my wife and I were trying to have kids. And my wife went through this experience where she had this procedure and it made her throw up and nearly pass out. And it turned out she had like an inverted something or other. So some parts of her anatomy were such that made this procedure really painful to the point where she almost passed out. And then we're like, it was a wake-up call, right? And we went and asked ourselves like real grown-up conversations that I'm not really used to about, do we really want to be parents? And that started, and we both sort of said, no, we don't want to do that. That's not what we want to do. We were doing it for all the wrong reasons, right?
Right.
And then that little awakening sort of got me starting, Deepak Chopra and the New Earth and Course in Miracles, and those little breadcrumbs, they're inevitable. Everybody whenever I have this conversation with different people, they always find the same books. I'm like, oh, yeah, I was there. I was that guy. I was this guy. Yeah, I went through my Joseph Campbell phase. Sure. It's like we're all the same person. Living through different faces. Anyway, sorry. Now I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So Charlie, talk a little bit about your role at the Shift It Institute. Are you a practitioner, or are you like the business partner? What are you doing at the business?
No, my work with Shift It is I serve as the operating partner of an investment group called the Bridge Builders Collaborative.
Oh, right, right. Okay.
I'm the managing director of that group, and we've been investing in the space of mindfulness, behavioral health, digital therapeutics for 10 years. We were really the pioneers and first folks investing in that space. We invest in startup companies, normally in sort of their Series A financing.
Okay. We need more of that.
Yeah. So,
we do. Yeah. Because the for-profit model, I think, is going to save us more than any other model, I think. That's just my opinion. But because business is how things change. Entrepreneurs are agents of change, too.
Entrepreneurs, either social entrepreneurs, nonprofit, for-profit, entrepreneurs. We are focusing on for-profit businesses.
Right.
We've invested in 20 companies.
Wow.
Some of them have become household names like Headspace or Insight Timer.
Oh, I've heard of Headspace. That's the app, right?
That's the app, yeah. So we were sort of crazy 10 years ago when we were the first professional investors supporting mindfulness. And, now I can point to 100 million people that have meditated on platforms that we've invested in.
Thank you. We need more. Yeah. Good job. That alone, that helped a lot. So,
but 3 years ago, my wise wife said to me, Charlie, you've been investing in the gateway drugs to higher levels of consciousness, and it's time to go deeper. And when I'm smart, I listen to my wise wife. And
is that Maureen?
That
okay,
is.
Good. I was just making sure.
We listen, but not
I figured. I just thought I'd be funny. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So, she's sitting next to me.
Yep.
So, I shifted the intention, and all of a sudden, people started to show up that wanted to shift to invest with us in consciousness and spirituality and deeper levels of mental health interventions. So. Okay. shifted our strategy to what we call going deeper. So we're supporting, startup companies in the space to provide invitations for people to wake up, for them to overcome their trauma.
There's a lot of space for healing, because we're in a mental health crisis. We have been for years. We just know about it now. Yeah. I can do a side thing about, I did a 4-year degree in psychology. And you know what I took out of that? I don't want to be a psychologist. It's just because of the model is so broken. All it does is talk about, and they know this, I'm not saying anything that you guys don't know, but I saw that like during all of the teachers were working in the system. So I did my degree with University of Phoenix. So they were all working as psychologists. So in the system somewhere. So like one was working for Orange County in a hospital as a clinical psychologist. There was a lot of people in education. There were people in research. And I didn't want any of these jobs. It was just because I saw that the business and of psychology and psychiatry is all about helping sick people get to okay. Right. And then after they're okay, we don't want to talk to you anymore. No,
actually, I would say,
go ahead.
We're trying to change the mental health system.
Good. It needs a lot of change.
Yeah. But what I would say the mental health system is, and I've been a part of it for 37 years, is it's just helping people manage the unacceptable.
Exactly. Right.
And it's not about transformation or change, just disrupting the system. It's just about making
what you just said is like manage the unacceptable you've said a lot right there. Yes, because the world as is unacceptable is what your point is, right? Yeah. I get it.
The companies we're investing in these newer ones about going deeper have great potential to start to disrupt the system.
Right.
I'm much more into whole person health, so that mental health isn't even separate from the whole person health.
Sure, you're right. That's not separate. Right. Almost everything has like some sort of past trauma, but it also has like you got to clean up your diet, you got to, exercise.
Well, I think unresolved trauma or mental health or emotional stuff becomes physical.
Of course, yeah.
So, and then
vice versa too.
Right. And then if you have physical stuff, you can start to have mental health issues. So it's really about whole person health. And I would like to see that shift.
The other thing that, have you ever heard of, I'm going to shift into talk about addiction a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So have you ever heard of this rat park experiment? Rat park?
Is it the one about connection?
Yeah. I'm just going to go through it because you guys are familiar, but for the audience that don't know, this rat park experiment was about addiction. So they were trying to figure out, is it just the drug that's making the addict, or is it something other than, is there a contributing component, right? So all of the rats that were happy would take the drug kind of like a meh. It's like, okay, there's a drug that's kind of like a ball that they can play with, right? No big deal. And they didn't get addicted. But if you took a rat and isolated them, right, then they would become an addicted rat. So the key difference there was they were isolated. So isolation in and of itself will cause any mammal to have anxiety and all these different depression sort of like features, right? So that was huge. As soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, it's not really the substance at all. There's so much more going on. Okay, thanks. You're like, yeah, oh yeah, that's it.
And trauma is a big part of it too. And
right.
When they isolated, it means that like what my life was like, I felt so different. I felt very isolated.
Right.
Because I couldn't find people to connect with who could get me. And I mean, even after I had my first spontaneous mystical experience and had all that joy, that next year in college, I was quite depressed because there was no place, there was no context. There was no place for me. There was no place for this joy. And
wow.
And I was made wrong quite a bit when I was young for being joyful. So, it's really complicated. And what really this rat experience,
the rat experiment, yes.
It really showed us that human connection, or rat connection, but human connection and being just seen and heard and accepted for who we are is what is essential to our health. I mean, there's a whole new field called social wellness, because we're realizing even our physical health is better if we have connection. And
right.
That connection, but what's really important about this is that connection means not fitting in. It means being seen and accepted for who you are. I mean, people don't have to, I have friends, I don't necessarily agree with their choices or behavior, but I accept them for who they are and I love them.
Right. Right.
And we're not good at that as humans.
Right.
Obviously, as we're seeing played out in our political system.
Right. You can love somebody and thoroughly disagree with them. You can be like whatever political party and still love somebody. Right. Yeah. Let's not get into that, because that's a whole rabbit hole. We don't.
Connection is important. It's critical.
It's huge. And so both of the times that I was depressed, I was also isolated. So when I talked about my first depression state, that was the very first time that I had lived sort of alone. Okay. So I had moved out of the Air Force dorm into an apartment living with two other dudes. But that meant that I was just not with other people quite a bit, for the first time ever in my life. So that's probably what triggered that whole depressive sort of state. I only just figured that out in like the last couple of months. I was like, whoa, that's right. That was the first time I was alone for, huge swaths of day, So yeah, well, there you go. I'm a rat. So, okay. So, I'm assuming both of you have some sort of meditation practice that you do on a regular basis.
I have lots of practices I do on a regular basis.
So talk a little bit about like what your daily spiritual practice is. And if you want to put in like dietary features, that's fine too. Just like what sort of thing gets you through the day in a healthy way. Do you meditate like when you first get up? That's kind of thing?
Well, I tend to work while I sleep. So when I get up,
you work while you sleep? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. You're doing a lot of working while you sleep. What time? Yeah. Can you nail down a time? Because for me, it's usually about 3.
No, 24/7. I'm working energetically.
Oh, wow. Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah. So when I wake up, when I'm coming awake, I'm integrating and understanding what I have done during the night and who I work with and what's going on.
Okay.
And I usually get up and
that's got to be kind of exhausting a little bit.
No,
not. So your body is doing fine. It's doing its stuff.
Well, but that's because I take care of my body. I eat really well. I do yoga. I walk, I run, I hike. I get body work done at least every other week.
Okay.
I see a chiropractor.
You breathe right.
Like my body is my vehicle, so I take really good care of it. And then seriously, like I live in the present moment, and every moment is a spiritual practice for me. And like you said, chop wood, carry water is a spiritual.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And
Zen
then
mind, the beginner's mind, right?
Yeah, and then Charlie and I are really good in the morning, and then at the end of the day, with checking in with each other, and
that's huge.
And really being able to hold space for each other, but also a lot of times I'm kicking his ass.
Have you ever done the eye gaze thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the ritual eye gaze.
Oh yeah, yeah. And when I used to teach, I used to have students do that. Yep.
That can get pretty intense. I don't know if that's something you need to do intensely with your partner. I mean, in a loving way. Yes, maybe.
I think it's intense.
I don't either.
Oh, yeah. Good. Oh, good.
It's really natural, and like it's
just beaming love at each other, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Yes. It can be. So when you do that as a practice, stuff comes up, with a stranger, right? Just gaze. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, this person's seeing me. I'm seeing this person. Wow, this person's seeing me. They know things about me. Things are coming out. And this is all just going on in the other person's head. It's pretty amazing. We're getting close to wrapping up. So if there's anything that you guys want to talk about more, as far as like getting your message out, just let me know, because I'm going to start wrapping up. There's a couple of things that I want to hit on. Some really good books that I've recently read. There's this book called The Overstory. Have either one of you heard of that book?
Yeah, I've read it. Can I just say something about books, though? I have to, because I have to.
Yes, of course.
Okay, books are lovely.
Yes.
And they're thought-based knowledge, and reading a book doesn't change anything. And that's one of the challenges I've found, is that people read books and they think, oh, I read this book, I have the language, like the New Earth or whatever, but nothing changes. They don't
do anything about it. Right.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
I read books for enjoyment. Like The Overstory was an enjoyable book for me.
Right.
I read novels. I don't all those people are always saying to me, what book would you recommend? Or what's the book you read? And I'm like, I don't do those. And actually the divine said, stop reading those kinds of books.
I get it. Yes.
Yeah.
I stopped too. I mean, I think just like everything else, like once you hear the voice tell you to stop, you have to honor that, right? Because you can get lost in that. It can be another way of avoiding your life.
I see that happen a lot. So I just had to bring that up because it's important to understand.
I don't necessarily, I thought it was a good book. I thought it was a good novel, but I like the message that we need to reconnect and understand that we are part of nature and save the earth. Yeah. And your mission is doing that. I think the more people wake up, the more they'll be connected and the more they'll see life everywhere, right? So that's why I bring up The Overstory, because I agree with the message. That's it. I mean, read it or don't. People don't read. Good news, though, is they're going to make a Netflix show about The Overstory. So that's good.
And the thing that is good about The Overstory is it's individual stories.
Yes.
Just read one, they're short stories, and it's about a particular tree.
Right.
I won't give away a lot, but I mean,
it's a weird book, but it's awesome. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It's a weird book. I liked it because it's sort of like it works really slow. It's like you're going, what's going on? Why are we talking so much about trees? And then you're sort of caught up in the story, just because he's a really good writer. So it's tricky. It's Mel Brooksy. It's like, have a message, just don't let anybody let you know, or don't tell people you have a message. Just let it come through, let it seep in. I think it does a good job at that, and I learned a lot, so so now when I see the trees in my backyard, I don't just see the trees, right? The tree itself is only like, it's like the thing that's visible in our universe. Right. There's so much underground, and then there's so much going up, right? So it's really neat, really good metaphor. Okay, so let's see. So how can people best get in touch with Charlie and Maureen over at shiftit.com?
Yeah, so shiftit.com is our website. I'm a teacher on Insight Timer. I have free embodiment practices and then a course on conscious breathing.
I write a Medium piece about what's happening in the industry that we serve. Just Charlie Hartwell, at Medium. And our website, as you said, is shiftit.com.
Oh, and we're on LinkedIn.
We're on LinkedIn and the Bridge Builders Collaborative website. That's the group that I
linked to both of those in the show notes.
Great.
And I think I've got both of your LinkedIn. So say that the first thing that you said, I didn't get it.
Bridge Builders Collaborative website is just BB Collaborative.
Right.
Letter B. So bbcollaborative.com. And
the thing that Maureen, what did you mention first?
I'm a teacher on Insight Timer.
Insight Timer. Is that insighttimer.com?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Most people just get it as an app on their phone.
Oh, okay. So I can link to Insight Timer app.
consciousness platform.
Yep.
Kind of like Headspace or one of those, sort of like
Not
that.
really, but
A little bit.
a similar theme, but much different platform.
Okay. Yeah, Headspace is kind of like pre-recorded meditation audios.
Yes.
Yeah,
Insight Timer is free. A lot of it, and it has meditation. It has many different disciplines. It has music, which is really great. You know,
Okay.
Because some people can't meditate, but binaural beats or specific music helps.
Right.
They have spiritual practices.
10,000 teachers
It's
teaching in 40 languages to 500,000 people every day.
Wow. Insighttimer.com. Now I
Yep.
want to go check it out. Wow. So thank you guys. This is your mission is amazing. So if you ever want to hire a goofball, I'd work for you. You know, you guys are like, no, you're way too goofy. But thank you for hanging out with me for a little while. I appreciate it. And have a good one.
All right.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.